We see a time 100 years from today when humans had ruined Earth to the point that it was no longer habitable. It was estimated that the planet would be destroyed within 70 years. So humanity built a spaceship named Ark-1 to send a group of people to a new home, Proxima b. Initially, the mission went smoothly, but after some time, a malfunction occurred in the ship, causing an iron beam to fall onto a pod below, where Lieutenant Sharon was sleeping. As soon as Sharon woke up, she grasped the situation and started waking up her companions. At the same time, she informed Spencer about the accident, and together, they began evacuating everyone. While putting on their helmets, a man named Baylor noticed that an iron beam had fallen on the captain's pod, making it nearly impossible to free him. Determined, Baylor tried to remove the beam, but when Sharon realized the captain couldn't be saved, she first secured Baylor's helmet and pulled him out, knowing they had no chance of rescuing the captain. After reaching a safe area, everyone removed their helmets. Sharon and Spencer decided to inform the commanding officer, but upon reaching his room, they discovered that an entire section of the spaceship had vanished. With the commanding officer missing, Sharon took charge and called a meeting. The malfunction in Ark-1 had caused a section to break off, forcing them to wake up 1 year ahead of schedule. Their destination was still Proxima b, but with limited food and water, survival became a priority. Despite the challenges, Sharon was determined. They were Earth's last hope. After the meeting, a boy named Agnes suggested an idea: growing vegetables inside the spaceship. Sharon liked the idea and immediately ordered power to be sent to that section. However, when Spencer found out, he was displeased and told Sharon she should have consulted him before making such a big decision, as there was no guarantee the crops would actually grow. After hearing him out, Sharon apologized for her mistake, but also warned Spencer to think twice before openly opposing her in front of everyone. A board meeting was then called to decide on the matter, and the crew ultimately agreed to go with Sharon's plan. Suddenly, the ship's oxygen supply began to drop rapidly. To fix the issue, the ship's life support officer, Jasper, was called, but he was nowhere to be found. The crew quickly put on their helmets, while Baylor, without a helmet, got trapped inside the medical room. Fortunately, he found an oxygen cylinder and began searching for a way out. Meanwhile, security head Felix located Jasper and brought him to the deck for assistance. But instead of fixing the problem, Jasper made a shocking confession. He wasn't the real Jasper. He had bribed officers to get on this mission because he believed Earth would be destroyed sooner than the estimated 70 years. Hearing this, Sharon became furious and immediately ordered his arrest. She then called in experts from different fields to solve the oxygen crisis. Meanwhile, Baylor managed to open the door, saving himself and many others who were on the verge of suffocation. At the same time, a girl named Alicia worked to identify the root cause, while Spencer and another crew member were sent outside the ship to investigate. They discovered a leak and fixed it, bringing the situation under control. Due to Alicia's exceptional work, she was promoted to Chief of Life Support, but despite her best efforts, 6 people lost their lives. After a while, Sharon took Jasper aside and warned him that his lie might cost him his life. In response, Jasper revealed that he wasn't the only one who had boarded the ship under false pretenses. There were many others like him. Shocked by this revelation, Sharon left silently. Later, a meeting was called to decide Jasper's punishment, and it was agreed to hear him out first. However, when they arrived to meet him, they discovered that someone had already killed Jasper by slitting his throat. The next day, while Spencer and his partner were repairing the ship from the outside, a large amount of debris suddenly struck them. Spencer sustained only minor injuries, but his partner lost his life. Upon returning, Spencer heard several suspicious things inside the ship. Everything seemed suspicious: the crew waking up a year early, the commanding officer's disappearance, and now Jasper's murder. Soon after, Spencer spoke to Department Head James, expressing concerns about Sharon, how she had never trained with them, had only arrived on the day of launch, and had declared herself captain after the commanding officer disappeared. Meanwhile, security head Felix, investigating Jasper's murder, discovered that the records of who entered and exited Jasper's room were missing. Shortly after, a water pipe burst in Angus's farm, leaving them with only 9 days' worth of water. While cleaning up, Angus noticed a blade in the water. He and Alicia suspected that the murderer had used the blade to slit Jasper's throat and later hidden it in the pipe, causing it to burst. Without wasting time, Angus took the blade straight to Felix. Meanwhile, Eva's team worked tirelessly to conserve as much water as possible. The next day, James was inspecting the ship from the outside while Spencer monitored from inside. During his investigation, James found diamond-like crystals on the ship's surface. As soon as he touched one, his glove started melting. Alarmed, he rushed back inside, where Dr. Sanjivni treated his burns. At the same time, Eva noticed that the water tanks weren't reaching the required pressure. She urgently called a meeting and informed everyone that they had only 4 days of water left. Even with extreme rationing, it wouldn't last more than 8 to 10 days, causing panic among the crew. They needed a solution fast. Fortunately, they soon spotted a comet rich in water. Now, their only hope was to extract the water from it, no matter what it took. After this, James was assigned the task of landing on the comet and extracting water. Eva was responsible for monitoring the entire mission, and their operation was a success. James received high praise on the ship for securing the water supply. With the crisis resolved, everyone felt relieved. But that night, Spencer received an anonymous message containing Jasper's belongings location. Following the instructions, Spencer found a memory drive containing a video. In the video, Jasper had secretly recorded Sharon in a bar, where she was brutally beating a biker before slitting his throat. Shocked, Spencer immediately informed Felix, leading to Sharon's arrest for Jasper's murder. However, despite the video evidence, Sharon claimed that the woman in the footage wasn't her, that it was an AI-generated fake. Meanwhile, Angus grew worried as his vegetables were mysteriously rotting. But before he could investigate, James called him to check his melted gloves. On the other hand, Felix was interrogating Sharon, who insisted she couldn't be in the video because, at the time, she was attending a meeting about Arc 1. However, Felix struggled to focus, seeing strange illusions. This wasn't just affecting Felix. All crew members were experiencing the same issue. After a while, Felix regained his senses and resumed questioning Sharon. That's when she made a revelation that stunned him. She and her twin sister, Brandis, were born in a lab as part of a special experiment designed for space survival. But unlike Sharon, Brandis had severe aggression issues and often killed people. One day, she murdered the man in the video, which was why Sharon had never trained with the crew. Felix, believing her story, decided to release Sharon. Later, a meeting was called to discuss the strange hallucinations affecting the crew. When Spencer saw Sharon there, he became furious, and his anger intensified when Felix refused to explain why he had freed her. During the meeting, Angus told Dr. Sanjivni that the hallucinations might be caused by the water extracted from the comet. But before he could say more, he suddenly collapsed. Alarmed, Dr. Sanjivni immediately tested blood samples and discovered that the comet's water contained a substance similar to LSD, which was causing mass hallucinations. Upon hearing the news, Sharon immediately went to Dr. Sanjivni and revealed that she was a genetically modified clone. To her surprise, Sanjivni already knew. Sharon explained that despite drinking the comet's water, she experienced no side effects, leading her to believe that an antidote could be made from her blood. To test this, Sanjivni quickly began experiments, and soon it was confirmed that an antidote could be created. However, before she could complete her work, Sanjivni suddenly collapsed, leaving Alicia to take over. Alicia worked quickly and skillfully multiplied the antidote, injecting it directly into the water supply to ensure all crew members were treated as soon as possible. One by one, they recovered, but Alicia drank the water last. She had been seeing hallucinations of her mother and had used those illusions to comfort herself. Meanwhile, Angus was examining James' burned gloves and discovered an unknown material on them, something humanity had never encountered before. This led him to suspect that the material had been used as a weapon and could have been the cause of the initial malfunction that woke everyone early. Later, Spencer sent Sanjivni to rest and took the opportunity to access the database. There, he discovered Sharon's true identity as a clone. Shocked, he confronted her, accusing her of hiding her past. He insisted that a clone could not be trusted as the spaceship's captain, arguing that it was reckless to put so many lives in her hands. Despite Sharon's efforts to reason with him, Spencer took the matter to the council. Using the video of Sharon's sister, Brandis, as evidence, Spencer tried to prove his point. However, every council member except him supported Sharon, believing she had repeatedly proven her capability. As a result, Sharon was officially declared the spaceship's captain. Wasting no time, she immediately began assigning duties to the crew. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Eva and her assistant Gregor were working tirelessly to increase the spaceship's speed. To boost the spaceship's speed, Eva and Gregor used an overactive fuel. Gregor warned Eva about the risk of overheating, but despite the danger, Eva decided to proceed while Gregor monitored the engine. Before stepping out for work, Eva instructed Gregor to pull the emergency lever in case of any trouble. Shortly after Eva left, the fuel overheated, causing radioactive radiation to spread rapidly. The situation escalated so quickly that Gregor was trapped in the radiation before he could pull the lever. Meanwhile, James noticed a sudden drop in the spaceship's speed. Alarmed, he informed Sharon, and both suspected a fuel tank explosion. When they tried contacting Gregor to confirm their doubts, there was no response. Realizing something was wrong, they ordered Eva to check the engine room immediately. Upon arrival, Eva saw that the engine room doors had auto-locked due to the radiation. Panicked, she quickly informed Sharon, and the crew began searching for a way to neutralize the radiation. Meanwhile, during Jasper's blood investigation, Felix discovered that Spencer had received a secret message from Alicia's tablet containing information about Jasper's memory card. When questioned, Alicia revealed that Baylor had borrowed her tablet for some time. Acting on this lead, Felix confronted Baylor, but as soon as Baylor realized he was about to be caught, he tried to escape. However, Felix managed to capture him, and with the help of James and Spencer, they interrogated him. Baylor confessed that he had killed Jasper because, like Jasper, he had bribed his way onto the mission. Fearing Jasper would expose him, he silenced him permanently. Meanwhile, Eva's team faced another crisis. Several crew members were trapped in the radioactive zone due to the autolock, and the rising radiation levels put their lives in grave danger. The only way to save them was for someone to enter the engine room and pull the emergency lever to shut off the engine, but whoever did so would not survive. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sharon turned to the crew and asked if anyone was willing to volunteer for the task. But no one was willing to step forward, so Sharon decided to do it herself. However, the crew didn't want to lose their captain either. As the debate continued, Spencer visited Baylor and explained the situation. If the problem wasn't fixed immediately, no one would survive, and without completing their mission, humanity would be doomed. Hearing this, Baylor realized that he had spent his entire life thinking only of himself. Now he had a chance to make things right. Determined to atone for his mistakes, he agreed to go inside. Wearing a protective suit, Baylor entered the radioactive room, where lifeless bodies lay scattered across the floor. Ignoring the grim sight, he pushed forward. When he reached the main engine room, he saw that its doors were autolocked, as radiation was leaking from within. Despite the danger, Baylor used his skills to override the lock, entered the room, and pulled the emergency lever. Instantly, the radiation stopped, and his bravery earned the admiration of everyone. However, the exposure was too much. Baylor died within moments, sacrificing himself to save the crew. In the end, he redeemed himself, giving humanity a golden chance to survive. And with that, the movie ends.